Hey, okay, I'll get started. Hey, it's Three Guys Pickin', right? Oh. Sorry.
She never mentions the word addiction in certain company. Yes, tell you she's you're unimportant. Let's start talking about the man. After you meet her family. That's right. Welcome back to Three Guys Pickin'.
You guys need to never sing again.
Right.
You need to never play songs for us to sing again. You have the
Hey,
guitar.
what's up? Welcome back to Three Guys Pickin'. I'm your host Tyler. With
He
me
has
as
the
always
guitar.
is Brodie.
That's me.
And Dave the Extra.
Hey, he actually didn't make fun of my name.
I know.
Hey,
That's
after that song you guys just did, I don't need to say another word about you two.
He's not gonna say another word. Yes.
Word.
Our
Show's mine. The
our
show
plan
is
worked.
mine.
Thank you to embarrassed yourself enough on that one. Stop singing.
Three Guys Pickin'.
We have a very special show for you here today.
It's actually the evening right now. Just so you know.
Right. Anyway, former Black Crow and current solo artist Rich Robinson paid Chicago a visit. New solo album, and guess who he sat down with?
3GP. Three Guys Pickin'. Right here tonight. In the show for you, we got Rich Robinson, guitarist from the Black Crows, and now on a solo tour. Debut album called Paper. Played at the Double Door here in Chicago, and we talked to him. So, you get to check it out.
The script says you're supposed to say something funny before we go out into the interview.
Rosie O'Donnell's fat.
let's welcome former Black Crowes and current solo artist Rich Robinson. Glad to have you to the program, Rich. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Why don't you start off and tell us about your current tour? What can you tell us about that?
Well, right now we're touring like the East Coast and the Midwest and just playing a bunch of gigs all around. There was a band called Antigone Rising opening for us, and now there's a band called Roosevelt, and it's been going really well. Yeah, we're traveling as a three-piece. We're not really playing. I'm playing pretty much all the songs on the record, and then some songs that didn't make the record, and some cover tunes.
You have a new CD, Paper.
Right.
What can you tell us about that?
I don't know. What do you want to know?
Well, you play bass, guitar, you sing, and you pretty much write everything. You're basically a one-man show. That's that's very respectful. What can you tell us?
I did on the record, yeah. You know, after the Crowes split up, I started scoring movies. I scored a movie, I scored a play, and I started producing. And I've just finished producing this band from Norway called Cadillac.
Cool.
And so I put together a band called Hookah Brown for a little bit, and it was, you know, it was a little, it got a little weird, just sort of similar band shit, you know. And so I didn't really want to deal with that, so I decided to just do it myself. And so it took a while to like figure all that out. You know, decided to make the record. So
have you started to stay along the same veins as Black Crowes, or are you kind of trying to find your own niche?
I mean, you know, I wrote all the music for the Crowes, so it's just the way I write music, you know. And as far as singing goes, it was the first time I've ever really sung lead, and it's the first time I've ever done anything like that, really. So, you know, learning how to do that and learning, you know, writing lyrics for the first time, singing for the first time was definitely, you know, it was a challenge. It was something interesting and new for me to do, and when I did it, it was really cool, you know, and it sort of completed this whole song. I mean, I always wrote songs for Chris's voice, or knowing that Chris would write the lyrics, so it was great to be able just to write a song from start to finish and have it mean exactly what I wanted it to mean.
So now do you feel like you're able to maybe express yourself a little bit better now that you're the lead?
Yeah, I mean, you know, yeah. I mean, for a song as a whole, I mean, it's also, I mean, it is cool to be able to write just music, knowing what, you know, my brother's, you know, voice could sort of handle, and knowing all those things, and also being a fan of what he did, and so just to sort of bring my half to the table was cool. But now it is, I mean, it is a cool thing to be able just to finish this one piece of song. And really know what it means to come from, you know, from start to finish.
Hey, welcome back to Three Guys Pickin. Hope you're enjoying this interview with Rich Robinson, formerly of the Black Crowes, current solo artist, new CD, Paper, in stores now. Get it.
Yesterday.
Anything witty to say there, Brodie?
I hate you.
Well, anyway, Dave the Extra and I sat in on the interview.
I was there.
Mr. Robinson.
I was there.
It was pretty cool. Dave
I was doing the camera.
Had some
I was
things
doing
to say.
the camera.
Dave actually had some things to say, and he didn't bring the interview to a screeching halt. Good job, Dave.
By going, yay!
That's pretty funny. So check out some more Rich Robinson and my awesome camera work.
I can certainly relate to carrying the load and doing everything yourself. I'm talking to you. Anyway, yeah, it's very respectful. I mean, I love that. Just carrying, just playing everything, and it's very nice. What can you tell us about some of the songs on here, like Know Me?
Well, I mean, you mean lyrically or musically or what?
Just give us your thoughts. I want to just run through a couple songs and.
Well, that's one of the first songs that I wrote, and it's just, you know, trying to, you know, it started off with a riff, and I wanted it, and it was sort of a heavier riff, and it sort of reminded me of something, you know, like, I wanted it to have like a band end of almost like the Ramones, you know, something like really loose and loud. But then when it came to the chorus, I was thinking more like the Beach Boys, and I wanted it to be like very poppy and have this, you know, these vocals have this sort of real poppy quality to it. And, you know, lyrically, it just, you know, being a part of a band for a long time, you know, everyone knows the band's name, and everyone knows, you know, these things, and sort of understands the inner workings of a band. But it was, you know, more of a thing like, well, look, this is what I'm doing now, and, you know, and there was also some weird stuff that went on, like, you know, loss of family and things like that, which is the first time I've ever had to deal with death, and, you know, on a level like that before, you know. And so it was, you know, it really came out that way, just to sort of, you know, this is what's going on, this is, you know, sort of hopefully where I'm gonna go, you know.
The song Enemy has been called a gritty Black Crows.
A gritty Black Crows?
Yeah, that's what the general feeling is.
Oh, really? Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I didn't know what the general feeling was. It's actually, when I did the score, that was the end title song to the score. Not lyrically, just musically. I'd finished the whole movie, and I did about 46 minutes of score, and they were like, well, do you want to try to write an end title song? I'm like, yeah, all right. So I took a couple of pieces of the score, and I turned it into that song, and I liked the sort of flow of it, and I loved the way it worked, but I didn't write lyrics to it. And lyrically, it means more like you know, you sleep with me. It's not necessarily like what some people have told me. They thought it's like someone that you're with, but it's actually yourself. You know what I mean? Your own worst enemy.
You were featured on Behind the Music. What was that experience like, and were you happy with the final product?
Yeah, I think ours was one of my favorites, you know. I mean, I think the guy really, really got into it, and he really tried to grasp us for what we were, instead of, you know, you see some other ones, and they're real stale and very staged, and, you know, and I thought it was real, and we all had the same message, which was good. You know, it was always about the music, and we always wanted to play music, and that's really what it is about, and that's what it should be about, really, at the end of the day. It's become more about being famous or getting your own reality TV show, which is hard. You know, it's a hard issue to deal with now in these days. You know, who's going to put out your reality TV show? How long is it going to be? You know what I mean? Are the cameras going to follow you around? You know, things like that. I'm sure Ashley Simpson would really be able to answer that question.
Yes.
But, you know, I mean, think about it. That's just the most ludicrous shit I've ever seen in my life, and people don't even realize that it's because no one has any imagination anymore. No one's able to write a fucking story. You know what I mean? It's like, Jesus, the last fucking sitcom we had was Friends, and how pathetic is that? You know what I mean? It's like, you know, what happened to everyone? How come no one's you know? It's just
things.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. You know.
So you're not a fan of American Idol either?
I can't watch any of it. I refuse to watch it. I watch, like, the lowest thing that I've ever seen was just out of, you know, flipping the channels. I watched Temptation Island one time, and I was like, oh my God, this is horrible. I got to get out, you know. So I just vowed not to watch TV anymore, and I don't really, other than Ali G, Chappelle Show. That's about it.
Oh, that's good.
You had touched a little bit about, you said that you started with a riff. Now, is that kind of like basically how your creative process works? You start with the music and then work lyrically, or do you have like an idea in your head?
No, I mean, for me, it's like lyrics come from, it's like a really subconscious thing. At least how this record was. I mean, I'll write a riff or I'll write the whole song and I'll finish it, and then I'll start singing a melody, and then words will just pop out, and then it's like then those words sort of turn into something, and they're like, stepping stones to whatever the whole song might be. And I actually paint that way too, which is pretty weird. I don't name the paintings until they're done, because it's just like they'll change. I painted the album cover, and the way I do it is I'll sort of start with a thing, and then as it sort of moves into this other thing, and I'll either change it or erase it or go over it or whatever it may be, but when it ends up what it is, I look at it and come up with something that it makes me feel. There's these two paintings that I did. It was, I guess like a mini series or whatever, where I started painting with a palette knife and doing all these things and using a ton of paint, bringing all these different colors in. And then after it was done, I was like, wow, it looks just like the Pompidou Center in Paris, you know what I mean? And this guy came in because I had a show in Connecticut, and this guy goes, "Is that the Pompidou Center?" And I'm like, yeah, how'd you know that? He's like, it looks like it, so it was something interesting. I guess people will get out what they get out of it. I don't think anyone's picked up on the fact that front album cover is an abstract horse yet, but still, that's what I did.
That's good. I like that. I mean, like you were saying, it's not even just about, just the instruments. It's also, like you said, you're doing the album covers. You're doing, the fact that you're into so many creative processes is impressive.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's as a personal expression, I mean, when you have a band, you do, to me, like creativity or art form, it's not a committee, it's not a service industry. And so the notion of like, saying what would the fans want, or what would this guy want, or what's some asshole at a record company gonna want, or a radio station, I mean, that's not necessarily a pure art form. I mean, you can only put out what you put out, and you can only express what you're feeling. And if people get it, that's great, and if they don't, that's great. It's, you want everyone to like what you do, but you can't really change what you do to make people like what you do. And so, a lot of times being on a record label, which I've been on many of them over the years, and these people have no clue, they don't give a shit. And our stance, Chris and I's stance, was always like, well, look, you have 1,500 bands if you're Sony Music Corporation, but we have one. And so what we say is the most important thing to us. Therefore, what we say goes when it deals with our stuff. And we've done that, and to a point it shot ourselves in the foot sometimes when it comes to like the success of things. I mean, everyone wanted us, well, why don't you, cover another Otis Redding song, because Hard to Handle was so big. I mean, it's like, yeah, why don't you go sign 50 bands that sound like Mudvayne, because that'll really add a lot to the world, but it's, I mean, that's the thing, that's the mentality of those guys. It's like, just hammer it home. It's like reality TV. I mean, right. It's the same shit. It's always the same shit. And
just regurgitate it for another.
Because it's easy, it's cheap, you can reproduce it, people will buy it for a little bit, and then they'll go on to something else. But, it's more important to me than that, and it was always more important to the Crows than that.
So even when you were with these big labels,
yeah,
you were still able to keep your own creative process?
Yeah, we were, because we sold so many records off the bat. We came in under the radar. Rick Rubin didn't like us, and he didn't want to sign us, but he signed us as a favor to his friend George Draculius, who was just started working at this label. And we made Shake Your Money Maker for like 70 grand, which back then is really cheap to make a record. We got, a very minimal advance, and you know, they didn't pay for food for us in the studio. We didn't get per diems or anything. They're just like, yeah, whatever. And it wasn't George, it was Rick. And then we sold 7 million records. And so by doing that, you know, you sort of, you go coming under the radar and then you leave over the radar. And it's like by then, it's like, what the hell are you going to tell us to do, you know? Plus being, you know, the businessman that he was, he forgot to pick up our option, which gave us a huge, you know, a huge leg up to where we were like, okay, you know, some leverage.
And welcome back to the show. Hope you're enjoying our interview with Rich Robinson.
Oh, that hurt, dude. You know, brothers aren't supposed to hit. Brothers are supposed to hug. Which is interesting because, you know, when we talked to Rich Robinson, we talked about how he and his brother Chris started a band, and me and my brother, a fat fuck over there, started a TV show. And, you know, it's kind of neat that, you know, at least out there somewhere that some brothers, you know, both of them are talented and they can do something good, where I got to carry his dead weight.
Dead weight is kind of the key word there.
Weight.
The star of our program, Brodie, also happens to be my brother, so I can relate to you and working with your brother. What's it like now on tour without yours?
There's a lot less fighting. No, I mean it's hard, you know. I mean, Chris and I have been in a band since I was 15, so you know, 20 years. I'm 35 now. And I've been doing this. I made my Shake Your Money Maker when I was 19 years old. So our whole adult life, we were in a band together and writing songs together, and we had this sort of vision together, and we all also had being opposites together, and we also had big brother, little brother together, and anything and everything in between. And there's always that competition, and there's always like family strife that comes along with it. And so with all of that, you know, it brings a lot of bullshit to the table. And you know, but also some great things too, you know. I mean, when we're in the studio, the way we harmonize together, or the way we write songs, or our musical reference points, or any of these things really bring that thing to the table. And without him, it is a little weird, you know. It was weird making the record for the first time without him, and it was weird going on stage for the first time without him. I mean, I've played like 2,000 shows with Chris, and then all of a sudden I'm on stage with these 4 new guys that, you know, I like, but I didn't know that well, with Hookah Brown, and it was a little odd, you know. But after 2 shows, you get into it and you're like, well, this is cool because it's different, and playing with different people, and it's gonna be different. And then when that sort of ended, and doing it myself, there's a lot of responsibility that falls on your lap, and it's like, you know, normally we have record labels, and we have a producer, and we have a manager, and we have, you know, 6 band members, and you know, crew guys, and anything and everything in between. And then all of a sudden I'm in the studio by myself with the drummer and an engineer, and which was cool because I could do whatever I wanted, and you know, to be able to make the record I wanted to make. And a couple of the Crows albums I played bass on as well, and some piano and percussion and stuff. So I've been doing all that for a long time. But this is the first time I was able just to do it all, play with the drummer, sort of lay it down the way I wanted to record. I wanted to make sure it was analog. I didn't really want to deal with the computer screen in the control room, because it's so distracting. It's just like this, you know, it's like this fluorescent light in the middle of like a, you know, a dimly lit restaurant in the middle of Paris or something, and then all of a sudden this massive, you know, fluorescent lights like above your table. You know what I mean? I know it sounds weird, but there's something that just draws you to that. Whenever you're in a studio, you're always looking at this creepy little light, and it's like, so we didn't have it, and it was really cool. And all the takes were like, you know, musical takes. They were, you know, something that Joe and I did as, you know, the 2 of us. And that's what a record is, you know. It's not like, okay, we got a good verse and a good chorus, so let's duplicate those, cut and paste, and do all this bullshit. And then you're looking at sound waves, and then you line them all up. You know, it's like, where, you know, with Pro Tools and with things like that, you would have in the day when my favorite records were made, like Zeppelin, you know, you can hear John Bonham's kick drum squeaking, they would have filtered that out. But that's something so human about the recording process, that it brings you into the studio with John Bonham.
It makes you lazy too, because now you don't even have to sing in key. I'll just fix it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Now, you had also said that you were doing some production too. Was that similar to how you were producing records as well? You know, trying to get to the grassroots of it, or?
Well, it depends. I mean, it's different for each band, because like the guys that I did were from Norway. They had a very small budget, and so basically we had to do Pro Tools for you know, benefit of time. And it's so funny. I mean, it's like everything. It's like, you know, if you grow food organically, it costs a lot more. But the conventional way, which is all this genetically modified horse shit, is like, you know, that's the cheap way to do it. So it's sort of weird. It's like, well, you know, you would normally just plant something and let it grow. And it seems to be that way with music. It's like, okay, you have analog, you have all this old gear, you have everything that in the modern day is supposedly, you know, outdated, but it's a lot more expensive to do it that way. So these guys weren't able to do it. But we, you know, ran everything through a tape straight to Pro Tools. So you got the tape compression on Pro Tools. So.
Isn't Three Guys Pickin' the greatest show ever?
Of course. It's great.
Well, we appreciate your time. We have a couple parting gifts for you.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man.
We got a DVD.
All right.
So you know who we are.
So you know who we got going on.
Okay.
And
White or black?
an official shirt.
Oh, cool, man. Thank you. All right. Football and noses.
Right. It's great meeting you.
Cool, man. Thank you.